Badass crew, welcome to this special bonus episode of Badass Direct Sales Mastery. I'm your host, Jennie Bellinger, also known as the Direct Sales Dom, helping you whip your business into shape. Today's episode is a replay of the most popular episode that I've ever done, which is called Sales is Not a Four-Letter Word. I'm sharing this again because this week's episode, which is Sales is Not a Four-Letter Word, Part 2. Hopefully you guys get that funny reference. If not, pop culture reference from the 1990s. But in the Sales is Not a Four-Letter Word Part 2 episode, I'm going to build on the content from this episode that you're about to listen to. Hopefully this will be a review because you've heard it before. And now, here's the episode.
Welcome to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Podcast with your Direct Sales Dom, Jennie Bellinger. Badass Direct Sales Mastery is a podcast for rockstar direct sales moms who are determined to make their business kick ass. Jennie will share her knowledge of effective sales and recruiting techniques, tips to get what you want from your business, and will interview direct sales professionals and leaders from various companies. The interviews will give insight to how these rock stars got to where they are and where they plan to grow in the future. And now, the Direct Sales Dom, Jennie Bellinger.
Welcome back to another episode of Badass Direct Sales Mastery. This is Jennie Bellinger, your Direct Sales Dom, and I'm here today to talk to you about sales. And my topic is sales is not a four-letter word. So I want to ask a question. How do you feel about sales? Your thoughts and feelings and beliefs around sales are shaped by all the sales experiences you've ever had, both good and bad. Now, let me ask you this. How many great sales experiences can you think of off the top of your head? Go ahead and pause the podcast for just a second and think. And now that you're back, now, how many horrible sales experiences can you think of? You're probably already rambling off probably 2 or 3 times as many bad experiences as good. That's because negative experiences, negative words, negative situations have 4 times more impact on your brain than a positive one. And that's because our brain is evolved to protect us from bad and painful things. So it wants us to remember, don't touch a hot stove, right? It wants you to remember how sharp the edge of paper can be sometimes, right? Those little paper cuts are horrible. But you're much more likely to remember those horrible negative experiences. And so that's much more likely to leave a bad thought, a bad feeling around sales. So let's reframe sales. So the first thing I want to start with is the etymology, which is the history of the word. So the word sales comes from Old Germanic English, and the word used to be sala, and it meant to transfer. So in other words, I have something that you need to solve a problem that you have. You have something that I want, right? But you don't have the solution. So let's transfer my solution for your money, right? So when you reframe how you think about sales as a transfer of a solution to a problem, and the fact that the other person has money, which is a solution to your problem, then keeping that in mind makes that whole process a little less scary. But just knowing the history is not enough to change how you feel around sales. So let's go just a little bit deeper. So why do people feel gross about sales? Well, probably the number one reason is because they are mostly concerned about the outcome and how it impacts them. Many people are thinking, if I don't close this sale, I'm going to lose my promotion. I'm not going to earn the trip. I won't be able to pay my rent. Notice how all of that was about them. If I don't close the sale, I'm going to lose my promotion, I'm not going to earn the trip, and I won't be able to pay my rent. They're approaching everyone with dollar signs in their eyes and reeking of desperation. And I'm sure you've met other people who are like that, who just knew that you were the next sale that they needed to make in order to hit that promotion, earn the vacation, be able to get the car, or even just be able to keep the lights on at home. And you could smell it and sense it from a mile away before they even open their mouths. So in order to detach yourself from that outcome, it really helps to approach a sales conversation differently. So, how do you approach a sales conversation in a way that doesn't have dollar signs in your eyes and reeking of desperation? So the first thing is have the goal of getting to know this other human. What do they want? What are their needs? What problems are they concerned with solving right now? Secondly, go into each of those conversations with the other person's best interest at heart and respect their boundaries. I recommend permission-based selling. So the reason I put in there respecting their boundaries is because many of us know that we have an amazing solution to somebody's problem. But if they can't see it and they say no, or they are not willing to invest at that time because they don't see the value at that time and they say no, then you respect that boundary that they've placed. But the permission-based selling goes something like this. You've gotten to know the person, you've identified their biggest problem, and congrats, it's one that you solve. Then what you're going to want to do is make sure you empathize with them, saying, oh man, that sounds like a really rough problem, a really tough issue. Then you ask, I think I have a solution. Would you like to hear about it? And then share. Empathize, ask, and then share. And finally, another way that you can approach a sales conversation in a really great way that a lot of people appreciate has to do with having a large enough network. Because when you have a large enough network of other professionals who offer different products and services, then every conversation is a sales conversation. You just aren't always selling you or your company's product. As my coach, Virginia Musky, says, no fish goes unfried. I think maybe I should have her on to teach that concept to you guys. Take a note to myself on that one. So you want to make sure that when you're listening to people, what problems are they complaining about and how can you help them solve it? Because if you become the go-to person because you have amazing connections, if you become the go-to person because you know how to help people solve their problems, well, eventually they're going to get to the point where you've helped them so much, you've given them so much value that they're going to want to help you. And that may involve purchasing a product from your company or having a party in order to introduce you to some of their friends because they are so grateful and they want to do something to give back to you. So I hope that helps you understand how sales is not a 4-letter word. And I want to thank you for listening. Badass crew, I hope that hearing this again was helpful. And if you love this episode, then you should definitely sign up for the 4 Keys to Unlock Direct Sales Success webinar, which is happening on Tuesday, August 10th, live at 3:30 p.m. Central. This webinar will be recorded and the replay will be sent to everyone who signs up at badassdirectsalesmastery.com/keys. So sign up now so you don't forget later. Again, the website is badassdirectsalesmastery.com/keys. In the webinar, you'll discover the one phrase you're saying that is holding you back. You'll also uncover the mindset that is keeping you stuck and how to sell without begging. And finally, you'll also uncover who will help you the most in your business growth. I want to ask you a question now. Have I ever steered you wrong? If this podcast has been helpful in your personal and business growth, I can promise you that this free webinar will add to that growth. So go now to badassdirectsalesmastery.com/keys to sign up. The link is in the show notes.
Thanks for listening to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Podcast with your direct sales dom, Jennie Bellinger. Why are you waiting to go to badassdirectsalesmastery.com? Don't make the dom get her whip. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it with another rock star that you know in direct sales after you subscribe to the podcast so you won't miss any future episodes. You can also check out the show notes for links and any contact information mentioned in today's episode. We'll see you next time.